Successful students must have successful, effective teachers. Successful, effective teachers must have successful, that's a tongue twister, effective leaders. Have leadership within the school is very important. Successful students plus successful teachers plus successful leaders are what you find in our effective schools. Back in the latter part of the 80s, early 90s, there was a big push towards effective schools. And I took this directly from some training we used to do at Region 19. It was called ILD for Teachers, Instructional Leadership for Teachers. Effective teachers are leaders, but it's based upon some administrative training. But it makes sense. If you have successful kids in your class, if you convince these kids that they're the smartest kids in the entire world, and you have those successful teachers that are going to do anything to make those kids successful, and you have successful principals that you walk in and say, I want to try this, and they say, go for it. You're going to have a successful school. That's where you're taking risks. That's where you're trying the best you can to make sure that these things will succeed. And that's when you think outside of the box. You can't just, like I said, spray and pray and hope they get it. You have to make sure we go through all of these. It builds upon each other. That campus leadership is very, very important, and it's not always out there. High school teachers, my high school teachers in the world, your leadership often isn't at the principal level, but at the department chair level. That's what's going to make and break you. That's what's going to get you where you need to go and what you need to do. Middle schools, many of you will also have department level teachers that will kind of guide and tell you where you need to go. Elementary, we still kind of depend on that leadership of the principal. We still need to kind of look at that. But that's what makes an effective school. Are those success stories. An effective school is one in which all students learn the specified curriculum. In Texas, what is our specified curriculum? Please state you knew the answer. And I'm going to do it. My master's is in reading, so let me give you a little mini reading lesson. It's called text. It's a short vowel sound. Okay, text, short vowel sound. Okay, we have a consonant, vowel, consonant, consonant. That makes it a short vowel sound. I don't know where these people got off calling it the T's, because there's not another consonant there. But that is our specified curriculum. You're going to remember that. You're going to get out to your campuses, and all these teachers are going to say, get your T's. You're going to make Mary said it's a short vowel sound. Okay, it really is. But your text, TEKS, that's your curriculum in Texas. Many districts have taken that and they've come up with course syllabi, course guides, curriculum guides, where you need to start in August so that it spirals and you end up where you need to be in May. Those things are there. But some of our smaller districts depend on you looking at those texts and coming up with the actual lessons for the boys and girls. So in Texas, it's a no-brainer. It's our text, because that is what's tested on the STAR test, and that is what's tested on the end of course exams. Okay? And you don't need to teach a test. That is not teaching in Texas. Teaching a test, oh, it just burdens me when I go to observe a student teacher and they're giving this what they call them, benchmark test. Test our kids so much. If good teaching is good teaching, if you're doing what you need to do, the kids are going to get it. And about a week before the test, you can show them how to bubble and they're fine. They really are. They do fine. But regardless of their background, regardless of their social economics, regardless here in El Paso of their language, you're going to learn. And you've made that decision in your classroom, you're going to help that child learn. And this comes Learning for All. Lawrence Lazanti, he's big on this. Big researcher. Regardless, let me go back to my first year of teaching. we gave, my first year teaching, third grade, picture this, here in El Paso, Burnett Elementary. It is August, it is hot, there is no air conditioning. My air conditioning was a big old box fan pointed on me and one on the kids. That was air conditioning back then, and all the windows open. But we gave an achievement test at the beginning of the year. And my kids did terrible, which was fine. If you look at research, you really wanted to do bad at the beginning because you can do nothing but go up. And so my class was that group of boys and girls. They created the class just for Mary. All the kids that nobody else wanted. I had all the special ed boys and girls. Back then, parents had the choice in the bilingual program, which they still do, of either being in a bilingual class, which was strictly Spanish, or a monolingual. Back then, the trend was to put them in the monolingual, so I had a lot of Spanish-dominant boys and girls in my class. And I had kiddos that were too low functioning even for special ed. This was Mary's third grade class. I loved them all. It was my challenge. So they did horrible on this achievement test. And my colleagues were just like you all snickering, hey, let's see what she can do with that. She's going to change the world. She's a new teacher. I convinced these kids that they were the smartest kids in the whole school. We had competitions with the other third grades on times tables, on addition, on spelling. And I told my kids, I said, you all, it doesn't come easily, so you got to practice and practice and practice. And so we line up for lunch. What's 2 times 2? What's 2 times? We do our all memorization, but I made it fun for them. They go out for PE, and I convinced the coach to do the same thing. Every time they throw the ball at somebody else, have them spell a word. Do help me on this. Do you know that by the second semester starting in January, we were beating all the other third grade classes of all those kids that were there? We were beating them. We were knocking the socks off. We were smart. And when we took that achievement test in April and got the results in May, more than half within that 90th percentile, because I convinced them they were the smartest kids in the whole school and showed them how to do things. And many of them that weren't quite the 90th percentile had made so many leaps and bounds, they even thought I had done something to the test. So I said, no, these are just smart kids. They were always, in elementary, high school books, I don't know if you remember this about elementary school, remember you always had the 3 reading groups? And most teachers, that bottom reading group was a life sentence. These kids started in first grade in that bottom reading group. They stayed there in second grade. They came to me in third grade. They weren't no figures. They just needed help and support. And so my first year of teaching, the principal comes in, the consultant for reading comes in and says, Mary, you don't have 3 reading groups. I said, because they all need to learn everything. Why? There was no difference. I had low, low, low. What do? Low, lower, lowest? I mean, they all needed help. So I mixed grouped them. I did different things to help them. And that's what our effective, regardless. My second language learners, I come from a Spanish background, but when I was going to school, my mother's Puerto Rican, when I was going to school, back when I was in school in the 60s, we were punished for speaking Spanish. Ask your parents about that. Punished. Everything had to be, so I got to where I always answered my mother in English, so I had enough background to help these boys and girls to support each other. If some of the vocabulary I wasn't sure of, I had kids support kids. Research says kids are better than kids. Let them do it. Let them, it's okay. But regardless, every child was there to learn.